welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. The agent today is in the top 10% of producers here in the greater Jacksonville area. Known for her integrity, professionalism, and unwavering dedication, she goes above and beyond to exceed her clients' expectations. As a native of Jacksonville, she possesses an in-depth understanding in diverse neighborhoods, market trends, and emerging opportunities in the area. Follow her on social media where you can find a very good Instagram page. We're going to be talking about that and how that helps her out. She's consistently adding value to her followers. I am looking forward to learning more about her. Let's welcome one of the newest members of Move with the Momentum team, Tiffany Riley.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you coming on. Yeah. I really appreciate, maybe I'll say, why'd you, invite me or so? Your Instagram, and you're consistently putting out content. Informative content. Actually, after the show, remind me, I want to show you this Instagram person. I think you kind of fall in line with. Actually, you probably steal some of her stuff. She's got tens of thousands of followers on Instagram, nice. But she's a real estate agent over in Orlando. Oh, and when I saw, and I was watching your stuff, and then for some reason hers came on my feed, and I'm like, oh wow, Tiffany could she does it she takes it to another level. Mm-hmm. And obviously, as you know, with video, you just got to get out there and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't always sound great. You might stumble on some words or bite your tongue or whatever.
Yes.
We've all been there. But I want to kick it off. You're from Jacksonville, but whereabouts? Where'd you go to high school?
So I graduated from Sandalwood High School. I grew up in the Intercoastal area.
Actually, my wife went to Sandalwood.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you're 18 years old, graduating from Sandalwood. I mean, what inspirations? I know you did some modeling. Tell us a little bit about that, and what were you doing as a young Tiffany?
Yeah. So I had no idea what I wanted to do at 18. I did get into modeling, and I was into. I had my cosmetologist license as well. I was doing nails right after I got out of high school. I started going to college. Still did not know what I wanted to do. And then I got more into modeling. Mm-hmm. And that just kind of grew. And then I went down to Orlando, lived there for a little bit because it was convention capital, basically,
right.
And then I ended up moving out to California after that. So I was like, well, I can always go back to school, do modeling now, and just blew up.
Give us a little, obviously, just like real estate agents, I mean, people have a perception of what is modeling, right? That, everyone, we could think of either, if there's models on Sports Illustrated, you got models on Victoria's Secret, you got runway models, you got, these things they're doing. But you're working a lot locally. What kind of, work is, I mean, you're not on any, I assume you're not on any salary, you're paid by the gig, right? Any
right.
type of thing.
Yeah.
What kind of, do you get with an organization that, I guess I want to use an analogy like a temp agency that temps models, hey, they need models for this, or they're, the last time the Jägermeister models. That was a bad night. But I mean,
but it was fun though.
It was until later. But what kind of work, as a young person trying to get into that field? Because I imagine it's like, it could be like podcasting. Or you got to just keep doing it until maybe someone finds you, right? Yeah. So what kind of jobs and types of things that you were doing?
So I actually started in Hawaiian Tropic doing the competitions for them. And then I went out to Hawaii and did their huge competition. Some people found me that way. And then I got an agency. I had a couple of agencies. I had one in Florida, and then I had some in California as well. So they would, find work for me and everything. And then also, too, just friends. I had a ton of friends that were models. So they would tell me about jobs and, refer me, and it was a lot of networking too.
Yeah, I was going to say that was my question that was coming to my head is like, I mean, you probably met some interesting people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember anyone you want to share? You don't have to change their name, but and anyone unique or a unique story that you could share with us from who you met in the modeling? I'm going to dig deep on that one. I'm throwing you on the spot.
Yeah. I don't know. Those were my party days too.
Right.
So it was all a little bit of a blur.
But I imagine also they took you some interesting places in Hawaii and Tropic. I imagine,
Yes.
for shoots or whatever.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I went to Molokai. I've been to Mexico. I went to Alaska. I've been to Japan. So yeah, a
Wow.
lot of cool
Interesting
places.
places.
Yes.
Yeah. Any place that you would look back and say, man, I remember going there for money. I need to go back now as an adult and
Yeah.
venture around.
Yeah, I definitely want to go back to Japan. That was really cool.
What'd you find?
So,
What'd you find interesting about Japan?
it was just amazing. It was, we went to Tokyo,
Mhm.
so it was just so overwhelming. And we did have a translator, which helped. So if I do go back, I might need a translator.
We
But
get the
just
cell
trying-
phones that translate now.
That's true. That's true. But all the different foods and everything. And
Right,
Yeah, it's just completely different.
All right. So based on your LinkedIn, this is like 2011ish. Is it just I imagine, well, for any model, women probably particularly because, as age comes, I don't know what happens in your life. You leave modeling, and I noticed you picked up a retail job and then led to something else, and eventually real estate, which we'll get to.
Mm-hmm.
But what was your change in career to step out of modeling at that time?
I got pregnant.
Okay.
With my
Growing a
daughter.
family. All
Yep.
right.
Yep.
That'll do it.
So yes, and as a single mom at the time, as a single mom in California, it was way too much, way too expensive. So I came back to Jacksonville with my daughter. She was 18 months old at the time, and I had no idea what I was going to do. I'd always been interested in real estate, but I didn't know how to get into it or anything like that, and I just needed something quick too,
Right.
because, I was,
Well,
my life was changed.
Yeah, you picked up
drastically.
a retail job with one of the, and then, but you did some time at Arbonne.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. That's it's a multi-level marketing thing, and you're an independent, just like you are as a real estate agent.
Yep.
You're self-employed. What are some things that you picked up there? Because what I found in a lot of there's a lot of personal development training
Yes.
in that.
Yes.
What are some things that you picked up there that you remember that?
It was really just a lot of the mentality aspect of it, which I loved. And that's something I love about real estate too, because I'm constantly reading, like the whole business, self-help books, all of that, really just getting in the right mindset. And that's important for Arbonne, it's important for real estate. So that I really like that. I mean, everybody, on my team and everything was just super positive and motivating. And yeah, so.
How does that, I haven't talked about this in a while on the show, but from a personal development side, to me, when I read a good book, Ryan Serhant for one, but I'm a John Maxwell fan. Picking up on some of these, it gives you some like positive juice, right? I mean, it just makes you feel good. Like, wow, listen to that story. He fell on his face and he got up, and now look how successful he is.
Yes.
You can relate to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because going out there as a real estate agent or as an Arbonne representative, you're going to get no. And and you get so many no's. So many people can take more no's than another person. Just like a box, some boxers can take more punches than another. Right. But tell us a little bit of how some of the things that you took from there, and how it during some times where you're like, am I doing the right thing? Should I keep doing this? How that personal development kept you keep going.
Yeah. So Arbonne, I mean, at the time where I was in my life too, at that time, I wasn't really in the best spot. So even though I was trying to work on myself, I wasn't in a good spot,
Right.
So trying to stay motivated and do everything with that,
Took extra motivation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's why I had the retail job because I needed instant money,
Right.
But at the same time, I was like, this isn't what I want to do for the rest of my life. So then I got into real estate.
So what is it now? I think it was 2015, right?
Yep.
Actually, if I look correctly, you had February 2015. So we're exactly 9 years
Yes.
this month in your career.
Yeah.
What comes across in front of you that says, I need to go get my real estate license, or I need to go because I think you originally started with Watson. Then I need to go down and talk to Watson. Really, what triggers you to make that step?
So I was actually dating somebody who was with Watson, And like I said, I've always had a love for real estate. You know, I just like looking at pretty houses, and I thought it would be fun. And I like that there's no cap on your income. So I was like, okay, this might be the right thing for me, you know. And then I talked to him a little bit more about it, and I knew that Watson had a school. So I was like, I'm going to end up with Watson, so I'll go to the Watson school. Right. So that's what I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this wasn't Dylan, right? It's not your
No,
husband,
no.
Dylan. Okay. So was this particular person, we'll call it your ex-boyfriend?
Yeah.
Was he a high-level producer? He was just there?
No, I mean, he wasn't
No.
super
outstanding.
Yeah.
So, but he's your contact. He's
Yeah.
you're in. When you got there, I would imagine, or even before, did you talk to other real estate agents at all?
No, not really.
I just
kind of went for it.
Well, that's cool. Most people, that's pretty much their answer.
Yeah.
But as we talk pre-show, one of the things I'd like, my dream of a listener on the show is someone who is thinking about getting in real estate or might be getting their license right now, but hasn't chosen that brokerage yet. And to go out and have conversations with top producers, not necessarily the top producer, but producers that are actually doing the business, and to research more about the brokerage, research more. Now you've changed brokerage a couple times. So in your initial thought, thinking about 9 years ago this month, and thinking about your move to Watson, could you have reached out and maybe what you know now and have talked to other brokerages, but you just didn't know because you were just in that.
Right. You don't know what
you don't know. Right. Exactly. What would you recommend to a new real estate agent today, or someone thinking about getting into business? Yeah.
So I mean, if I could go back and change how I did everything, I mean, Watson's great, but honestly, I would probably start on a team or, under a top producing agent to really figure things out a little bit better, to get better guidance. Because it took me a while to really get to where I needed to be.
Well, and that makes you, and I always think he has a path for everybody, and that's made you who you are today, type of thing. Yep. I mean, we do know some people like Brittany and John who got in, had success pretty quickly. I mean, they're pretty brilliant people.
Yes.
But it's, sometimes it's, where we grew up, your background, just you weren't exposed to those things.
Right.
What do you think are, a couple like important things that agents need to know up front that maybe you didn't know 9 years ago today?
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, the biggest thing for me was confidence. When I first started, I felt like I didn't know anything. I didn't know what I was doing, and that was terrifying. And so I think just really kind of studying, and like I said, and that's where I think coming in with a team or somebody like that you can follow and gain that knowledge would be really helpful too. Because I just lacked confidence at the very beginning.
Well, initially, my question back to you is, well, you're modeling for 10 years. But you had to draw back on that sometimes because you're standing in front of people. A lot of times you're in your bikini in front, Hawaiian tropic, right? That's what you're doing.
Yep.
You've got to have a lot of confidence, and we know a lot of people we're our biggest critics, right?
Yes.
No matter what you look like, we're always critics. Oh, I wish I was a little this, a little that, a little taller, a little skinnier, whatever, right? Type of thing. And that's a different. I think it's a different type of confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was the confidence in the sense of meeting new people, or what do you think, or just your lack of knowledge at that moment?
Yeah, it was the lack of knowledge. Like I'm the kind of person that I want to know like everything. I want to be the expert. Right. So yeah, feeling like I didn't know exactly what I was doing was terrifying.
So let's talk about that first year.
Yeah.
I mean, let's talk about some of the terror. Talk about some. I mean, I started studying back last summer. I actually dove into what you guys have to learn, and I've been doing mortgages for 18 years. So when I go and do the continuing ed for the mortgage stuff, I'm got half an ear on it because it's the same stuff over and over again.
Yeah.
You know, the dates actually don't change. Maybe how much you have to pay to renew. Like they'll ask a stupid question like that.
Right.
But some of the stuff that you guys have to learn is you got to learn it.
Yeah.
Now you may never actually recall it later.
Right.
But there is a level of competence that you have there.
Mm-hmm.
But were you like many agents that realize this test has nothing to do with what I'm walking into every day?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. I just completely felt unprepared.
So what do you do to try to overcome this? Because obviously you stayed with it. I'm sure there was many times you probably like, do I want to do this really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Many times.
What are some of the things that you started doing to start chipping away at your, we'll call it at this time, a lack of experience and knowledge?
Yeah. So also when I was modeling, I also did makeup too.
Mm-hmm.
And I was basically a self-taught makeup artist. And the way that I taught myself was by watching YouTube videos.
Oh.
So that's kind of what I did with real estate. I just watched everybody that I could on YouTube. And
this is 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I read as many real estate books that I could. You know, I just dove in and tried to gain as much knowledge as quickly as possible. And Watson also has a great training too. You know, they have videos that you can watch, and you go to Success School and all that too. But so I just picked up education from anywhere that I could. I went to NEFAR to their classes and just tried to learn as much as I could.
Well, you know, it's a great point there. I mean, how important for a new agent is to, I mean, there is countless education things going on right now, whether it's at NEFAR this morning or a lender like myself is doing a lunch and learn today, or a title company, whatever it is, to find out where these things are and put it into your schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, especially for a new agent, fresh, you know, jumps in the real estate, you know, the potential, you just got to figure out how to get there.
Yes.
Right. How important is it, like, to find these places?
Yes. Yeah. And still to this day, I mean, and that's one thing that I love about Momentum Realty too, is because we have so many trainings and you don't have to go to all of them. You can pick and choose. But since I've joined, which was in January, I mean, I've tried to go to almost all of them because they're so valuable.
Right.
So,
what do you think are some of the most important ones? Because I imagine you've probably heard the same not different people teach the same subject,
right?
But they teach something different.
Yeah.
What do you think are like a couple of the first trainings that, like, people that, again, a new agent that first year or two really should be an expert at?
Contracts.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need to know your contract inside and out.
How many different people have you heard give a lesson on the contract in 9 years?
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was watching something, a reel popped up. It was talking about the FAR bar contract versus the NEFAR contract. What's the difference? What's in it? And I mean, you have to go see different instructors because different instructors think different things are important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I won't ask you who you think the most important, best instructor is. All right. You went to Florida State College, Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
What did you study there?
Oh, so I didn't I wasn't there that long.
Yeah. Well, you saved yourself a lot of money.
Yeah. Yes.
There's so there's nothing more inspiring. To be honest with you, I think it's more inspiring, especially because our higher education, I think it's I don't say failed us, but to me, it's become a business.
Yeah.
And you know, the great thing is, and we'll get into deeper how real estate's changed your life. And you know, you don't need a college education to do it.
Right.
And so forth. I want to go back to the first year. Do you find a mentor, someone to coach you, or when do you find that in your career? Because you said you went a while, you know, not really producing where you want to be.
Yeah.
You know, you had some struggles and so forth. Did you find someone that you can attach to? And because going back to the team thing, you know, I would have joined the team to learn. Did you match up with a top producer that?
So what happened my first year, I was just not fantastic. I also still had a lot of personal things going on, from my move from California and everything that I was dealing with. So I wasn't focused 100% like I should have been in real estate. But then eventually I did hire a coach. I did Tim and Julie Harris coaching. I just did not the individual coaching, but they have an option that you can do.
Or
Yeah,
group coaching.
it was group coaching. It was inexpensive, but it was still very valuable. So I got a lot of good information.
I did put a bottle of water there just in case you.
Awesome.
I'm going to have a drink of my coffee. But.
Thank you. I do have my Starbucks. So.
Okay. So how did the coaching? Go back to, because I've had Jake Dixon on with the locker room last month. That's all he did. He got into real estate. He says he's only sold one house, and he quickly got people realized coaching was his expertise, because coaching is not necessarily the ABCs of real estate. It's evaluating your business, right? Give us some things of how that started to move the needle for you.
Yeah.
Assuming it did.
It did. It did. Not as much as, you get out of it what you put into it, right? So I probably put maybe 75% into it, not 100. But I got my pre-listing presentation from that. I got my listing presentation from it, which I really needed. So that was great. I just, I feel like I became more professional in a sense. I had systems in place. I had presentations. So that started that whole side of everything.
Did the coaching start to give you a larger picture of what real estate was all about, or really what the entire picture of what your business as an agent is? What are some things that like I said, give you a listing? What kind of exposure did the coach give you? Whoa, hold on a second, this is bigger than what's in front of me.
Yeah. So then I realized, I can't just rely on one thing. Then I started getting into expireds and for sale by owners and the whole lead generation and figuring out different ways to go about it. So
all right. So the list you said, what are some things that you took away though? That you're still, because this was what, 2016, 17?
Yep.
You got your coach?
Yep.
Okay. What are some things that you're still utilizing today, or took and maybe tweaked it a little bit? Because I think techniques always got to be moved as the market moves, right?
Right.
Yeah. Whatever the market. What are some things that you took from them that you're still using today?
So basically my pre-listing presentation. I know a lot of agents don't use them, and I got an expired pre-listing packet. I'm sorry. My pre-listing packet, and a lot of agents don't use them from what I've heard. And I got a huge expired listing just from that. He said, "You're the only one that sent me this." So
tell us a little bit what is it, what makes it, what do you like about it, and what have you, the response that you've been getting from your clients on this package that you put out?
All right. Yeah, so it's just, it has some information about myself, and then I also do an RPR report about the home in there. I don't put
RPR,
Realtors Property Resource.
Okay.
And so, but I don't put an exact price point on there. I do a value because I haven't seen the home yet. So I put that in. I put a little microwave popcorn thing in, and just some fun things, and a little note, a handwritten note.
Right.
And so it's just individualized to them. And usually I'll have a courier take it out the day before, or, an assistant, or if it's close to me, I'll just drop it off on their front door or something like that. But I do it the day before the listing.
Okay. So they called you, say, "Hey, Tiffany, I want to talk to you about listing my home." You put this report together, assuming you have time. It's not like, "Hey, we're meeting tomorrow morning."
Right.
So you want to get that out and have them at least browse this package before you actually come out.
Right. Correct. Okay. Yeah.
What do you think it is important? You said that there's stuff in there about you. What do you think it's important for that customer, the listing, the seller, to know about you?
So basically it's just my bio, but it also has my marketing in there. And I'm trying to think. So I actually just switched my presentations over since I switched to Momentum. So I'm trying to decide if I still want to use that one, or now I'm playing with some different things. But yeah, but it just gives them information about myself so that I don't have to go over a huge presentation the day of.
Right.
So they feel like they already know me.
Well, that kind of, my first initial thought when you did is like, okay, are you putting your, like, say, your social media stuff on there? Because you do have a great Instagram page. And you have some substance on your YouTube, which I think is the most underutilized by real estate agents. I have many of the top agents on, and I go to their YouTube page, and they got videos that are 3 years old.
Yeah.
They haven't done anything recently.
Yeah.
Do you put that on there so they can go, oh, they're reading this, but we know also people like they're video watchers now, right?
Yeah.
Do you make that connection to try to put them over onto those pages?
So I haven't, but I should. But I'm just now trying to get better with my social media. That's kind of a newer thing. So I do need to incorporate that somehow. And I'm playing around with the idea too, because obviously I'm learning a lot from John and Brittany, about instead of doing the pre-listing packet, mailing it over like I have, they do, like an email thing, and then they would be able to click on links and see certain things. So with my social media.
There was something I saw advertised I thought was brilliant. There was a company that actually did that, but more on a professional, because you'll see these emails come across, and like if I just went in here and created an email and put in a bunch of my social media links, it looks kind of like, doesn't pop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has to be formatted properly.
Yeah. And have some, style with it, I guess we'll call it that.
Yes. Make it look pretty.
Well, because would you agree? I mean, because everything you do is a representation of you and what they're going to perceive, how you're going to represent their home.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. We go with the coaching. How does that move the needle for you? Do you start getting more listings, you thought, or buyers? What starts to happen? You're like, hey, I'm moving forward. I may be doing the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, my business grew a little bit, but it never grew to where I wanted it to be. And again, I mean, I think that I've been dealing with some things. Confidence was like a huge thing for a long time, just because of personal things that I was going through. So really just getting comfortable with everything.
Comfortable with yourself.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
And then really when I started focusing more on my sphere is when things started really growing. So, yeah.
Well, and, we like I said, pre-show, someone's going to resonate with your story. And, if there's any one thing that will move the needle for you, and we've mentioned it several times, is confidence. And so, and if there's any one thing that's going to hold you back, it's confidence. And I think any agent listening to this show right now is going to say, yeah, I had the same problem.
Yes.
I mean, I would say 7 out of 10, if not 9 out of 10.
Yes. And it's just all mindset, just working on my mindset these past few years is really what has changed me.
Let's speak to that, because that's a big, mindset is a big word. We see it a lot on the reels and the top producers. It's all mindset. If you want to be a millionaire, you got to have a mindset. That whole thing, which I would agree. You and I know people win the lottery and they blow all the money because they just don't have the mindset on how to deal with that.
Yeah.
When you say mindset, what does it mean to you? And then if you can, in telling us that, how have you changed your mindset? How has your mindset grown? And it's continually growing.
Yes.
Continuing. Dwell on that. What your inner, because I think we speak to ourselves internally, right? Yeah. If you could speak to your mindset and your inner speakings to yourself.
Yep. Yeah. So like I said, I'm constantly reading, or now it's just listening to audiobooks because I don't have the time to actually pick up a book. But, books like 10X and The Success Principles. There's just a ton. I mean, there's a ton of great books. Yep. But so also this past year and the year before, writing down my goals and doing affirmations and things like that to just constantly focus on.
So you're going to use that journal I gave you.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes. Yeah. But honestly, that is what has really changed my business, is focusing on my goals and my affirmations and staying the course.
I want to, because a lot of people say that.
Yeah.
I like to put the rubber to the road a little bit. what are some things, and it doesn't have to be necessarily, sometimes we put a goal and, or, put a thought or whatever it is. And maybe we get to a point where we didn't actually get there, but during the journey, we actually realized, the goals are just a little different. We tweak it and get there.
Right.
What are some things you started finding yourself by writing these things down? What are some of the things you started finding yourself doing to get there?
So, and this is something too that I learned from John. So I would always do yearly goals, and now he has me breaking it down into quarterly. So, because my goal for this year is 10 million. So I'm like, okay, that translates to 2.5 per quarter.
Right.
So before I'd be like, oh, 10 million, I did, 1 here. I've got the rest of the year to do right now.
Right.
No, this quarter I need to do 2.5.
You gotta stay on pace. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So that has really helped too, because it's, kept me hustling more, because I'm like, oh man, it's already February.
Right.
Yeah, I only have until the end of March. So that's helped a lot. Is just breaking it down into smaller things.
Because I think people, and what does John say about, setting, obviously you want to push yourself, but you also got to be realistic.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for like last year, for example, my goal was, well, personally I said 6, but I had never done more than 3. And my broker was like, well, maybe we should shoot for 5. I was like, all right. So I did 5.8. So I was like, oh, it was just almost made my 6.
Right.
But I was happy about that, know? So it was a good accomplishment.
Let's go into, dig a little deep into the business thing. You've been doing this 9 years, so you have a good track record of things you probably did and would tell us, don't ever do that, right? What is one of those things that you did, in you try and just, if you would call it, you fell on your face on it, it just didn't work.
Yeah.
At least not for you. Because I think marketing is in real estate, because it's all about relationships and so forth. What are some things that you did now not to do?
Well, that's the thing. I think you have to find what works for you, because there are some agents that cold call all day, every day, and it works for them.
Right.
I hate cold calling. It's not my thing. But I've tried it, and calling expireds is on my to-do list. I don't know if I'll get there or not, but I don't know. I don't know if there's really... maybe door knocking. Door knocking was not successful for me.
I think people there. I think it was Ella. Ella got married, so she changed her name with Momentum.
Oh yeah.
I can't think, but if I recall, and I may be wrong, Ella, if you're watching this, I don't know if it was her that said door knocking. Her name came right to head when you said door knocking.
Yeah,
it came right to my head, but I don't know if it was her. Somebody's, different people have had success at door knocking at other times than others. I do think if I was a real estate agent, I would go 2 or 3 doors either side of my open house or whatever, and type of thing. Let everybody at least know at least in that surrounding area. I don't know about just blanketly just walking down the streets and hitting 100 houses.
Yeah.
Especially we could probably do it today comfortably, but in August that it just ain't happening.
Yes. And the funny thing is, when I first started real estate, I thought, I need to dress business all the time. So I would wear very business-like clothes and high heels, and now I've completely changed the way that I dress.
Well, talk about that. Being a model, you had that mindset that you wanted to be prim and proper, dressed and so forth.
Yeah.
What do you think has changed your mindset on that? What is the lifestyle of being a Northeast Florida real estate agent in regards to how you're dressing?
Well, I realized heels don't work when you're trying to show houses, especially after it just rained and you're sinking into the ground. So, and also, it just we're in Florida.
Right.
You don't have to be super business-like. And,
right.
It's fine if you want to do that. For listing appointments, I do dress up more for listing appointments.
Right. Well, you don't know who you're going to be in front of until you get to know them a little bit. Then hey, I can be a little more cash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I've definitely taken it back a notch and just comfortable, but still nice,
Yeah.
I usually wear just a dress and sandals or something.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to show up in cut off shorts or something like that.
Right.
But would clients that you've had, or that, you know, visualize that, especially like, you know, we get a lot of these people from up north. They're coming here. Now they have the jacket and tie thing, but when they enter across the Florida line, they have more of the casual mindset. In my way, I'm from the Northeast.
Yeah.
And I know my wife has said it a couple times. It's funny. She's from Jacksonville and went to Sandalwood.
Okay.
And she's like, you know, a restaurant, and oh, you need to wear a tie. I don't know anywhere in Northeast Florida that you have to wear a tie in any restaurant. This is Florida.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the funny thing is I was showing luxury properties one day, and I had just a dress and sandals on, you know, and my buyers were from New York. And the listing agent of this like $2 million property met us at the house, and he looked like a bum off the street. And my buyer said something, you know,
Well,
they were like,
he was
"I can't believe
below
he's
the
dressed
level.
like
Yeah.
So.
Well, there is no doubt. Well, and I'm sure you saw it when you're modeling and mixing and mingling. You some of the most, I won't even necessarily say affluent, but from a standpoint of what we see as status is, you know, their net worth, you know, a lot of times you walk by them, you don't even know who they are, because they dress down. Right. So they hopefully they fit in more, and people don't notice them, and, you know, asking for autographs or whatever. And sometimes you just walk right by them and don't even know that person's worth whatever millions of dollars.
Yep.
Let's digging into business. You mentioned earlier, you from your coach, you improved your listing presentation and buyer's presentation. One thing we've been talking about recently, obviously with the rates going up in the last 18 months, is, you know, the listing presentation isn't like 2021 where it's just, hey, show up and, you know, you can kind of wing it and get it, because you're going to put that house up and probably have multiple offers before you even get it on the MLS, if not within a couple of days. But today you need to have a little more strategery involved. Tell us how, you know, have you changed the way you're handling listing appointments today than just, you know, 2.5 years ago when rates were low and, you know, the houses were listed and had many offers? Yeah.
I mean, I have that conversation with my sellers, you know, about the rates and about possible seller concessions that could come up, because, you know, especially depending on the price point too.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, that you actually hit it right. I was leading you to it, and you hit it right on the nail. That the importance right now to, when you go in that listing appointment, to have, hey, we may want to, because you're competing against new construction, who's giving away. I think they're giving away the houses right now. Yes. Actually, I mean, they're making minimal margin on these houses just to keep their guys busy. Type of thing, but they have all the incentives to get that lower rate, so you have a lower payment for whether it's a short period of time or buy it down permanently, whatever. You know, tell us how you approach that conversation when you go in that listing appointment and approach them with these options. I mean, where, you know, or is there different clients you guide to those options, others that maybe you won't because of the price point? How do you stage that conversation?
Yeah, it definitely depends on the price point. And also to where we're pricing the house too, you know. So obviously we go over the comps and everything, and see if it makes sense. But I just talk to them about, you know, where rates are, and give them, you know, this is what I'm doing for my buyers. So if I brought the buyer, you know, they might need some help with closing costs, so, or rate buy downs, because some people they've never heard of a rate buy down, you know.
Right. Yeah, they don't know what the builders are doing. I mean, they might see the advertisement and wonder, like, what are they doing? Are they using their own money to give them that low interest rate, or so they don't understand how it's actually getting there? What is some of the reception, though, that you're getting? Because I think one of the challenges that agents are having is, you know, being confident in that presentation right now, because I think, and you may agree or disagree with me. You know, if you go in to a presentation and, you know, they say, no, we don't want to do any seller concessions, just price the home there, go with it. And then, you know, 2 weeks and they're getting antsy, right? Because, you know, they're used to, well, geez, you know, 18 months ago, the house sold in 2 days, my neighbor, it's 2 weeks and we've only had a few showings or whatever. And now they're talking about a price reduction or having to go back and say, okay, well, let's do the incentive now, which is equivalent to a price reduction.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So what kind of feedback are you getting from these listing appointments in that discussion? Are some warm to it? Who do you find more warm to it than others?
Yeah, I mean, people have been pretty open to it. I mean, really just showing them the data and looking at other comps too and seeing if other homes nearby have done seller concessions too. Like that'll help, So showing them the comps and going over that with them. And then just showing them too the difference on a price reduction versus a buy down. So, because sometimes it's a lot cheaper to do the buy down than the price reduction.
And your neighbors like you better because the house sold for more.
Yes.
And we're not really having a problem with appraisals. Have you had any issues with some low appraisals?
No,
at all?
I haven't recently.
Yeah, I think the appraisals are there in ripe for the to do the buy down. And from the lending side, to someone listening right now, you don't necessarily have to do the buy down. It's here we're going to give you money towards closing costs or buy down, whatever you want to use it for, because every buyer has a different situation, whether it's a low payment or they're short on cash or both.
Yep.
Yeah. Because qualifications. Have you had any? One of the hot topics. Well, I think it's again last 18 months, 2 years now is insurance. Have you run into any issues with your listings or with the buyers where insurance has become a kind of a factor in the?
Not necessarily. I mean, we've had to replace water heaters due to insurance, but I do have a listing appointment coming up this weekend that the roof is 18 years old.
Oh.
So that's gonna, be a fun one.
The good thing about the roofs is whether you escrow it or there's roofers now that will take the check afterwards, type of thing. But, having that wind mitigation and really any house, I think we were talking with an insurance agent, said they basically, it's over 10 years, get a 4-point wind mitigation because the insurance is definitely a challenge because you got that person set on that payment.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, because we used to wait till a week before closing. Oh, go get your insurance now. We're all ready.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, it's $200 more a month than what you thought.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep. And I recently had one too, where we were under contract. I had the buyer, and they were shocked at how much the insurance was. And I asked what the current owner's insurance was, and my buyers were getting quotes for $1,500 a year higher. But it was, most likely because they've had a lot of claims. So, because they were talking about their insurance credit score,
oh, wow.
So, I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, and I want to continually I had Cindy on, she's on the NAR board for insurance. And because this is a national problem. It's not, we know, I think Florida is a focal point, but when I speak to people in other states, it's an issue everywhere.
Yeah.
We just have more litigation than the average state does, and therefore has caused the issues. Yeah. But one of the tips that Cindy had was when she was at RE Bar Camp was getting the actual declaration page from the current owner and share it with the new insurance brokerage. Because there's things on there. And flood is one of the biggest things that you can assume the policy, which could save you thousands of dollars by assuming the current policy versus going and getting your own new policy. And there's little tips and tricks in that. So I'm planning to bring on Cindy more often to give us those little tips and tricks there. Because I think your job is and it falls back on the loan officer a little bit too. But to be that next stage real estate agent, insurance ain't just a slam dunk anymore. Right. It ain't just, it is what it is. Right. You have to, and then I had David Heekin on the other day talking about property taxes and portability and everything, and being knowledgeable on those areas and educating your buyer to prove your value.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. When I first started, I didn't know anything.
Right, right.
It's like there's so much to learn, and you don't learn that in real estate school.
And then some of the stuff you learn changes.
Yes, exactly.
So it's always moving.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to switch up my order of questions here. You were happy with your 23. You felt you moved your needle a little further. You exceeded your broker's goal that they had set for you, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
What are some of the things I'm going to combine? Actually, we'll combine this because I think your move to momentum was part of your 24 plan, right? What are some of the things that you're going to, excuse me, what are some of the things that you're going to do or, have on your, in your notebook, your quarterly goals and so forth? What are some things you're going to do maybe a little differently, maybe a little more of than you did in 23?
Yeah. So this year I'm really focusing on my database and, my sphere. So we just had a class on this from Momentum, and the way that John and Brittany did theirs is just mind blowing. So I'm super excited about it. I've learned a lot. I'm going to do a client appreciation event this year, which I've never done. It's always been something that I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to do it. But, he's like, you have to plan it. You have to put it down at the beginning of the year or you won't do it, which, I haven't. Right. So that I'm going to do. And I've just really upped my game with them. I'm using Lolo gifts. So, and we have a focus program.
Actually, the second agent has mentioned that.
I
recently.
love Lolo. Yeah. I get so many messages. It's the only thing that people actually really respond to me on. They're like, oh, thank you so much for this, So, yeah, it's great. And it's very inexpensive. So I love Lolo. And there's different ways, too. You can touch them before the Lolo goes out and just say, hey, I want to let you know that this gift is coming. So it's just extra touches throughout the year.
Right.
Yeah.
And just so those who don't know, I'm trying to remember who was on recently in the last month or so that mentioned the Lolo gifts. It's obviously a way to touch them. You're sending them a coupon gift of some local small business that's in their area, because you can regionalize it on Northeast Florida, or wherever you're at. But you do for wherever they live, something near them. Might be a free ice cream or free sandwich or something type of thing. But how important is it? And John probably has a plan. If you can, as you probably learned in this training, what do they feel? Because everyone's a little different. What do they feel is the amount of touches that you should be doing on a monthly, quarterly, yearly basis?
I want to say it's a little over 100 per year.
Wow, that many. Okay. Yeah. So Lolo's going out once a month?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I also use HomeBot for sellers. Are you familiar with HomeBot?
I am familiar with HomeBot, but how are you using it?
So I just basically put their information in, and it just sends them out a monthly email. Just
updating them on the
value.
Market conditions. This is where, type of thing. Because it's probably a little more colorful than them just going on Zillow and saying what Zillow thinks their value is.
It has a lot of good information. It has, if you wanted to refi, if you wanted to rent your house out, this is what you could do. So it just gives them different options. And then I get an email, I think it might be weekly or bi-weekly, saying these are your top contacts. Like this person did 3 activities. Opened it. Yeah. Yeah. Like they're really like diving in and looking, so they rank them. So I like HomeBot. I think it has a lot of valuable information.
What does that email look? I mean, it's got to be, obviously HomeBot has their brand on it, but they're not really selling to consumers, the end consumer. Anyway, you're their consumer.
Right.
What do you feel the branding on there for you is to remind that agent or that homeowner that this is coming from Tiffany?
Yeah, so my information's on there, and I'm co-branded with a lender too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So you feel that it gives you a reason to call them, right? Is that what you're using? I imagine if they're clicking on 2 or 3 things and doing a little more research, might give you a couple days, might go by and give them a call and say, hey, what's going on?
Yeah. And I track it too, and I keep up with their home value. And for instance, one of my past clients, I noticed that their home value was a little bit off. So that was a reason for me to reach out. I said, hey, I noticed that you looked at your home buy. I wanted to let you know that that's a lot lower.
I don't agree with that.
I'm sending you over an updated market analysis. Yeah.
Good. That puts it in. Wow. That is actually, I mean, to me, if you did that, it'd be like, wow, Tiffany's on top of her game.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. But 100 touches is a lot.
Yes.
So what are some other ways that you're, you obviously, well, you just mentioned you want to have a client appreciation. You're building your business up to that.
Yep.
And you want to have that this year. So that'll be one big event, but it will give you a reason to touch them a handful of times, inviting them, right?
Yes, exactly.
Type of things. What are some other things that you're doing or John suggests you're doing that you're going to implement?
Yep. So I want to come up with some sort of like giveaway for referrals or something like that, you know. I'm still working on putting that together. And then I also send
Just
out.
watch your RESPA guidelines. That's
right.
all.
Yes. Yes. I know. That's what I'm saying. I have to like put it together properly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and then also I mail them out a newsletter every month. And it also goes out as an email too. And that's something through our focus program through Momentum as well. So I was just doing postcards, and John informed me that it needs to be trifold in an envelope so that they open it. So,
I use send out cards is what I use.
okay, I'm not familiar with that.
You're going to get a thank you card from me for coming
Okay.
on the show today. But I'm going to, the reason why I do use send out cards, you know, it's tough to do. It's because it's personalized, which, you know, it's not like you're selling 200 homes a month and like, oh, I got to make 200 cards.
Right.
You know, that way you'd have to mass produce, you know, the same card, or maybe it changes their name on it, but it goes out in the same generic card. But what Send Out Cards does, and there's other companies that do this, but I like the way Send Out's platform is, and I've been using it now, good 3 years, if not longer. But it's a subscription, and the postage is included. Okay. But I can go in there and take their photos off Facebook, because there's nothing that blows a client away than to open that envelope. You know, and unfortunately, the envelopes, they're machine printed. I mean,
right.
you have people, you open the envelope, but when they see their picture, they see the picture of their family on there. I had a recent agent, John, if I could we'll just leave it at John. John wants to tag on here, he can. But, you know, when I did a little market update with him, because I've had him and his wife on the show, and I just said, hey, John, let's talk about what's going on in Nocatee. And we got on, and before we went live, you know, he's sitting in his home, we're doing it virtually, and he goes, hey, I got your card right back here, because people don't throw away the card that's got their picture on
right.
it.
I love that. Yeah.
And on the back of the card is basically my business card. It's got, you know, hey, it's, you know, Tracy, it's got my QR code on there, so they can scan it and goes to my application site, you know, my website, and so forth. But they don't throw those away.
Okay,
you know?
I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah,
because I also use AM cards for birthdays, home anniversaries, and that sort of thing. And I do like that, but it's just a regular greeting card.
Yeah.
But you do have the option of putting in a gift, like a Starbucks gift card or an Amazon gift card.
Yeah, that's like send out cards that you can. When businesses was really good, I was sending brownies to everybody. Yeah. It's slowed down. That's why you're not getting your brownies right now. But yeah, you can attach brownie to Starbucks gift card, or you know, they have a bunch of little. They have a whole thing of little gifts that you can send them.
Nice.
But the important thing is, you know, you hit them, they remember you, right?
Yeah.
And nothing. I'll tell one other story about selling send out cards. When I first started doing it, we had this guy come in to the lender I was working for at the time, and he did some trainings and so forth. Well, I made a card and thanked him for coming to it. Well, him and I did some post work virtually, and he's sitting in his office, and on the shelf behind him is my card.
Oh, cool.
Sitting, because luckily I went on his Facebook. His family had just done some photos.
Nice.
And so they had all these quality photos. And so I put his family on the front of the card.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they don't throw that away. Yeah.
Very cool.
But the importance of touches. So I want to link this into Instagram. Because, well, I'm going to ask you first what your mindset is, your ideology of social media, and how you're attacking that, and what is your social media goals for 24?
Yeah, so, and that kind of originated when I was with Watson. My broker there was like, you have to get on social media, even if you don't like doing video, you just film it and just put it on. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be professional. Just do it. You know. So I was like, oh, okay. So I started doing that. But I felt like I never knew what to say. So I found this company called the Paperless Agent. and they do my social media postings. But then, so they do this whole, I get a website, and then every month they have a, like a, they individualize it per month. You know, a campaign is what it's called. Okay. So they do a campaign every month, and then they have a blog post, and then everything is related to that same topic monthly. So the blog post goes on automated. The social media posts are automated, and they're tied into the blog post. And then they give me scripts. So that's what I read. I put that on my phone and I read it.
I was going. That was a question I had for you. I was going to take it off camera because I was just, and we'll talk about it later. Your Instagram posts where you're giving great information.
Yeah,
yeah, you're educating there. Because I think if you look at some of the best of the best, or at least. It's funny. I think John will relate to this because this conversation him and I had at one time. There's a lot of people that get on stage and they did all this volume, but they didn't make any money.
Right.
Yeah, he's big on the return on investment.
Yeah.
What are you actually putting in your pocket?
Yeah.
And but some of these people have the greatest social media. But when they say they're getting business off social media, it's because they're consistently educating or at least the person might not even be listening to what you're actually telling them or remembering what you're telling them, but the fact that you are telling them,
right,
and shows that you have knowledge and you're sharing it with them,
right.
They can go on your library as your YouTube page as well. You have to go on Tiffany's YouTube page because you've got your reels there, and so forth. And I imagine you're evaluating and improving those all the time from that standpoint. I mean, I'm constantly figuring out. Everyone has different advice on how to get more views.
Yeah, personally,
it's there because when they Google you. Your reels are going to show up, and that long-term video is going to show up.
Yeah,
that's what I'm producing out there. Yeah, it's great the shows recognize and the other agents recognize. We get that minimal level of recognition, but it's that plant that's out there now when everyone Googles you. How do you think the YouTube? We talked about, or you mentioned earlier, your circle of influence. When you're doing those videos, are you thinking about everyone who in your circle when you're doing this?
Yeah. And I'm trying to get better at YouTube too. So, because my videos don't have a lot of views on YouTube. My Instagram and Facebook get more, but for whatever reason, I don't know what I'm doing wrong on YouTube. But I want to also do long form on YouTube. And I have an 11-year-old daughter, and I've told her that if she can figure out how to edit my videos, then I will pay her. Because that's another thing too. I see all these like really pretty YouTube videos, and I don't know how to do that, and I don't want to take the time to do it, because I feel like it takes away from my business. So, so that's something that I want to work on too. But
yeah, well, I mean, there's no doubt a good videographer can, take out the things. What I'm using right now. Not for the show, but when I do my little market updates, or me and another loan officer, we do our mortgage athlete thing. We talk more mortgages. We had David Heekin on earlier, last week, and Opus Pro. Okay. You can literally, since I stream live to YouTube already, or I can take it, obviously the video's saved here, I can, stick it right in there, and it'll go through, and I can tell it, I want I want 30 or 30 to 60, under 60 seconds, because I'm looking for reels. But you can also, as the AI technology is getting better every day, you can go in there and say, it will actually do a video up to 15 minutes. So you could take this whole conversation that you and I are doing and say, hey, I want a few 5-minute clips from this, where we're going back and forth, and AI will go in there and find, it might only be 3 minutes, but it's looking for that, where it's taking our conversation and breaking it down into those shorter forms. Yeah.
Very cool.
And it'll and you can go in there and edit. One thing I really like about Opus Pro is, especially the reels, it's real easy. You might have a 45-second reel and you got the script over here on the side. You might go, well, I want to trim that. Take out the it'll do that. We'll say you have some filler words. Do you want to take them out? Yes. Boom, takes them out. And what it does, it actually clips the video accordingly.
Okay.
So it's not like you're just taking the words out. You're actually clipping the video and
Right.
cutting it down. Because like I said, YouTube likes the shorts to be at 60 seconds or less and
Yeah.
so forth, and that sort of thing. So the technology is improving on that.
Awesome.
And it actually does pretty good. I
Yeah.
mean, I can take a 30-minute video and it might cut, 20 reels. Now, I've had as many as after 9 or 10, I'm like, okay, that's enough content from that person.
Right.
But I mean, if you want 3 or 4 solid reels off of a little 30-minute conversation that you're
Yeah.
recording, it'll do it.
Nice.
It'll do it really. And boom, you're done. You can go in there and dress it up a little bit, add, some emojis or, it gives you different ways to do the script across there, the way you want to do it. It gives you like 6 or 8 ways to do that. But the AI technology's, that's where it's at.
Yeah.
Yeah, for speed.
Yeah.
And getting the content out there. Plus, it also rates it what they think the content. Like it'll give it a title. So if I actually take that video from Opus Pro and say, put it on TikTok, it'll put the title over there and everything. So that it's what I don't know what AI thinks is going to be a trend. I don't.
Okay. That's
so
cool.
it's a little. I'm constantly tweaking that. But you're a
Yeah.
YouTube learner, so there's
Yeah.
a lot of guys on YouTube that will tell you a lot about that.
Yeah.
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 So, we were talking about let's one subject I always like to talk about. Well, I'm not saying like to talk about it, but I think is important. You see agents move from brokerage to brokerage. Now, there's a handful of agents out there who've been with the same brokerage, who knows, 15, 20 years. Whatever. But I think what they learned is they've gotten to a level where they're self-generated anyway.
Right.
They just learned faster, had a better mentor, whatever. Whatever they're doing, they're producing, so they don't see a reason to change.
Right.
But tell us a little about your growth. We talked about the brokerage in between in going to Momentum, but what you've seen, and if you were talking to a girlfriend about getting into real estate or who's in real estate, maybe not be doing as well, the importance of the brokerage or maybe joining the team and how much that adds to your business and back to that mindset word.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was going to say is just mindset, so definitely being with a brokerage that does have the same mindset as you, and can really help motivate you and just has that energy there. It's extremely important. So,
well, some people can self-energize.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about that. But some of us, we want that, like you said, the personal development
yes,
energizes you.
Yes.
John and Brittany, I mean, they're sometimes I wonder, I see some of his posts if he's moving too fast.
Yes.
Yeah. But what was in your initial conversation, did you know someone at Momentum, or I think you were telling me the story, I think pre-show a little bit.
Yeah. So I did a deal with Corey Miller.
Right. That's right. That's what it was. And then, so when you sat who did you sit down first and really have a conversation about Momentum?
So I spoke to Corey about it. I just kind of casually asked him, I was like, hey, I see you're with Momentum, what do you think about it? Blah, blah, blah. And of course he had fantastic things to say. And I was friends with John, and I think I'm not sure if I was friends with Brittany yet on Facebook, but anyway, I was following John and, I'm seeing all of his posts and just raving about everything about Momentum. And I was like, okay, let me just have a conversation with him. He had reached out to me. And I was like, all right, I'll have coffee with you. So, but, for the longest time, and honestly.
Now, how long did this go? Your initial conversation with Corey, did John call you? Did Corey tell John today you need to call Tiffany?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is a brief period of time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was just like within a few months, I think.
Okay.
But even still, up until December, I was saying I will never switch brokerages again because I had already done it a few years prior, and it was not a nightmare, but it was just a lot of work. It's a lot to change all of your signs, to switch everything over. So it's a lot of work, and it's scary, because that wasn't a successful outcome for me. So I did end up going back to Watson. So to do that again and not know, the unknown was terrifying. So I had the conversation with John.
I want to finish that because you're giving me another question. Go ahead.
So then I met with John, and we just kind of talked about everything that Momentum offers, and I told him what my goals are, and it just seemed like a really good fit. So I said, okay.
what are some of the things that he said? And this can go for anyone talking to any brokerage or something. These are the things, I think you've picked up on, at this point, you've been in the business at, 6, 7 years, right? I mean, well, you just went over to Monday. Yeah, 8 years
it was
now.
8 years, yeah.
8 years. But you have 8 years under your belt. What was some of the things that he said that maybe Corey actually didn't even mention, but just like clicked like, yeah, I need to go over here and be part of this?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm making more, with split wise, with momentum.
Is that always important?
It is not always important because sometimes they're, and I think it's very common for 100% brokerages, they most likely don't offer a lot. So the fact that Momentum has such a great split and they cap and they offer everything that they do was just huge to me. I mean, I don't know of another brokerage like it. So that was really big.
So the money structure plus,
yes,
you like that?
Yeah.
I mean, not to say anyone can offer. Obviously, I think the 100% brokerages, they're dealing off, the broker fee, but they want to be like Florida Homes with a lot of agents, right? So to keep their training module stuff, you can make that a fixed cost.
Right.
So if you have so many thousands of agents, you don't have to take as much commission to offer that little bit of thing. Right. That obviously is how I always wonder how some of them operate.
Right.
In functioning because there is a lot of stuff that the agent doesn't necessarily deal with on the insurance is one, and that kind of stuff.
Right.
All right. So we've got a plus on commission structure. What else?
And I was also going to say too, I mean, commission structure is not always the most important thing because if you don't know how to generate the leads in the business, you're still not going to make 100% of nothing. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So so also having the training and the guidance is also very important, especially if you're a newer agent. But they have investment opportunities, which I love, and they have, I think now we're over 160 agents, but there's newer agents and then there's also successful, I forget what they're called, but they're the more successful ones. There's a name for them though, but I don't remember.
Let me because there's two things here that are the training and investment that you said. If there's one thing that is a commonality between a lot of people who ask, like, why do you like your brokerage, right? Oh, they offer great training. What does that really mean to you who's on the street every day?
Yeah. So
is it what they're offering, how they're offering it? How does that? Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, because some brokerages, they can say they have great training and it's just online stuff that you have to kind of go into and find it yourself, even though, it's there and it's good. But what I like about Momentum is they have training on so many different things. So not just real estate, but also investing. I mean, we had a health coach come on too, I mean, it's basically like every aspect of your life. So it's just that I really like that too.
Well, what it sounds, so the investing part of the second part of the question, you may be an agent out there, and you agree or disagree with me, but you may be an agent out there like, well, I'm just good the way I am. I'm not looking into investment. But does it not intrigue you, the fact that your broker is out there up front that's offering and expanding your vision of real estate on a larger scale? Yeah. Because I think a lot of agents get stuck in the, with their blinders on. And, I think it's important, or do you invest? Are you buying real estate?
Right.
Are you, do you flip houses? Do you have an Airbnb? Whatever it is that you like to do, and necessarily recommend do all those things. Maybe you do, but if you have do you have a rental property or two, or at least building up and trying to get there? Right. Because one thing I've noticed in 18 years of from the loan side is I've had agents come to me like they don't even know how to talk to a potential buyer of an investment property. Like, oh, this guy wants to buy investment properties, and they like panic.
Right.
How I mean, did that even when he said that and all, because he puts a lot of it on social media, what he's doing, which he should, you know, because he wants to attract other agents and so forth, which may, you know, obviously some of the things that you saw, but that they are, you know, pushing the envelope as far as a mortgage broker in town right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, and that was something he recently said to us too. He said, you know, he's challenging everybody to do one flip this year. You know? So.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah.
160 agents.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, not that everybody will do it.
No.
But, I mean, some people just aren't into it, you know, and that's totally fine.
Well, you got to find you got to come upon the right gem too.
Yeah.
I mean, not, you know, there might be dilapidated properties, but if they ain't selling for the right price or won't sell for the right price, I mean, you ain't going to make any money. There's no sense of pulling your hair out, because that's what you will do on a flip, especially your first one.
Yes. But I'm excited to learn about it, because I don't have a lot of experience on that side of things. So,
I mean, some of the top agents that I've had on, obviously, you know, take themselves to another level. Someone like Jordan Feria, she does it on a regular basis. There are others. Mercedes St. George, obviously, was with the Yellow Bird, or, you know, whatever they were, the flipping. That's how she got in the business, was learning, working for them, and then building up. Actually, then became a real estate agent in that process. Okay. But you know, I'm sure John is putting together, because he's so forward thinking in a lot of things, that, you know, the key component is having the right people, you know, the right contractors. You know, you can go in there and your job is to find the house. After you find it, now you got to get somebody to come in there and give you some dollar values and so forth. Yeah. But is this not, even if you never flip the house, knowing that your broker is forward thinking like that you walk into a house where you might be listing like, hey, we need some repairs done. We got people on speed dial.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm sure you've experienced it 9 years trying to get a contractor to come in and do some work.
Yes.
You know, it's Florida. If they show up, that's the great.
Yes. I mean, and I've always had my, you know, list of vendors. Right. But over 9 years, it changes. Yeah. You know, on a regular basis, because they either just stop, or, you know, I can't reach them anymore. Yeah. So
100%. Well, I mean, in realization, their lives change.
Yeah.
You know, whatever goes on, they move out of the area, or, you know, I know 2008 killed a lot of skilled craftsmen in building houses, because the housing industry went to zero. Yeah. So they all had to find something else to do. So that's why we're short on having a great skilled people in that area. Yeah. Which opens up opportunity. Yeah. Do you have anything you want to add to the show? Someone should know about we didn't talk about today?
I don't think so. I mean, I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
I actually want to ask this question, because I want to go circle back to mentors and coaches, because I think it's important. Yeah. Again, because I've asked it several times on different topics that we've gone back, but going back 9 years to where to know what you know now. If you know, again, went back 9 years, but know what you know now. Yeah. What do you think would be one or two things that you would do before even getting your license?
Ooh, before getting my license.
Or in that process, before actually stepping out on the street.
That's a tough one. I don't know. I mean, I would probably interview people a little bit more than I did, and just kind of learn more of, like, actually what's happening on the streets, you know?
Well, I mean, when you had the conversation with John, you know, 9 years ago, you probably would have just listened more to him doing some talking. Yeah. But I would imagine that because you have 9 years of experience, trials and tribulations and some success there, where you had some more in-depth questions for him as a broker.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, I mean, like I said, my biggest thing was, you know,
he's not actually the broker. Brittany's
the broker. Yeah. She's amazing too. Yeah. So, and I really look up to them for all of their success, you know, when they were selling and everything. It's just mind-blowing what they accomplished.
Right.
So.
At such a quick way. So because of the knowledge, you had some questions, and actually I wrote it down here and I didn't ask. So I'm gonna we'll finish with this question. I do this all the time. Making a change from a brokerage. You've done it a couple times.
Yeah.
You said it was changing the signs and everything, but in your path, in your real estate career path, now the jury's still out on the momentum move right now, right? maybe next year we'll regroup and talk about what was your first year at Momentum like.
Yes.
But would making those changing the signs, changing your logo, should it hold you back to mediocrity? Versus, obviously you make the change because you feel you're going to move forward.
Right. Yeah, no. And honestly, to switch over, it was the biggest pain in the butt for me because everything like little that could have gone wrong went wrong. Like I ordered my new for sale signs with this QR code through my old CRM and I didn't realize they cut my QR code off. So my new signs came, my QR code didn't work. So then I had to go and order stickers for a new QR code to put on there. And then my open house signs came, and one side the arrows were going one way, the other side they were going the other way. So I had to reorder my open house signs. Then my business cards came. I didn't like the way they looked. The paper wasn't good. So I had to reorder my business cards. So it wasn't, it was just a lot of little bumps. I mean, nothing major, but it was time consuming. And then my CRM, I thought that I had everything exported and all of my past clients were not in there. I had everybody but them. So it took me weeks to accumulate all of that information again. I had to go back through my emails, find their emails, go in my phone, find their phone number, put everything back in. So it took some time, probably a little more time than it should have to switch over, but I made it work.
We learned a couple things there, right?
Yes.
If you're using the brokerage's CRM, you may want to have your backup personally, which I know a loan officer in time, he said that. And I wish I kept, the thousands of people I did loans for in a call center because it's volume based.
Yeah.
To have a backup system in case you change over.
Yes.
So you don't want to just bank totally on them because they shut you off, you're off.
Yep. Everything's gone.
Yeah. So we learned that.
Yes.
What the artwork and everything on the signs, do you recommend a QR code on the sign?
Only if you do it the right way. Yeah. So, but I will say Brittany and John did make it pretty simple. They have somebody that makes all of their signs and everything and marketing. So it was pretty easy. I just had to put my contact information in. So it was pretty much done for me.
How important is it when you're working with a brokerage, like things like that, that are just more or less turnkey?
Yeah.
Like, oh, here's a couple options on your business card. Which one do you want?
Yes.
Versus trying to create a whole new wheel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, it's huge, especially if you're, not a brand new agent. You don't have a ton of time on your hands.
Well, it's part of that thing that I talk about. It's adding value to it. Someone wants to transition over. Number one thing is what you just talked about. Oh, last time, or, I don't want to deal. I got to change all, no, just plug into the system.
Yeah.
And go.
Yep.
Here's a couple different options. These are the three most popular business card styles we do. Boom, go.
Yes.
Because in reality, the business card, it should look good.
Yeah.
But it's not a make or breaker,
No. And now a lot of people are using the digital business card too.
Yeah.
So, which I personally like that better, because then you can get the other person's contact info.
I have more contacts in my phone from people who just sent me from share contact from their phone and shared it over to me. Boom, boom. Now that person's information than never taking it off a business card.
Yep.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Tiffany, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I think we created some great content today, and everyone got to learn a little bit about you.
Yeah.
We got some great cutouts for John and Brittany for some highlight reels, as we did last week with Hannah and Carlos.
Nice.
As Carlos is very passionate about momentum.
Yeah.
But I having both of them on the show, I know what you're, a little bit about what you experience in me. I just think they're amazing people, in again, the energy that's coming from them, and they're a force, and continue to grow.
Yes.
As a brokerage. So, but hopefully you're going to have, I know you're going to have a very successful 24.
Thank you.